Hey guys, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with my September wrap-up. I read 15 books in September and equaled August, and even though I was hoping to read more than that, I know in my September TBR I sort of went, okay, I'm going to put 16 books and I'm going to go and read all of them, and then I will go and read 6 more books which are on my tentative TBR, which did not happen, by the way. I don't even remember how many books from my actual TBR I managed to read, but I'm damn sure it's not 16. Anyway, there were a few books apart from my TBR that I picked up and that I really enjoyed, so I'm not regretting that. And moreover, 15 is a good number. At least that's what I'm telling myself. But I was sensible enough to make my October TBR shorter. But without further ado, let's get into this video and let me share with you all the books that I read in September 2019. Okay, so the first book that I read in September 2019 was a Sophie Kinsella book called Can You Keep a Secret? And I enjoyed reading this. The thing is, I love Sophie Kinsella because of how humorous and yet mushy her stories tend to be, and this one was no less. This is about Emma Corrigan, who's returning from a business trip to Glasgow. So when the plane hits turbulence, she spills all of her secrets to the man sitting beside her. Little does she know that that man is going to turn out to be her boss, or her boss's boss's boss, and she has to figure out how to make sure that he keeps her secrets just them secrets, and her burgeoning feelings for him. How is she going to deal with those on top of all of this? And are people going to call her names? How is their relationship going to progress? This forms the rest of the story, and I laughed through it all. I mean, there were certain points where you feel bad for Emma, but I'm like, the situations that she finds herself in, they're one of the most absurd and the most hilarious things that could ever happen to a person, and Emma goes through them all. I just loved reading this book, enjoyed it so much, and I know now that Sophie Kinsella is always going to be my go-to author for a good light-hearted read, and if I just want to, clutch my tummy and laugh my heart out. I gave Can You Keep a Secret 4.25 out of 5 stars. My second read of September was Ravan, Enemy of Aryavarta by Amish, and this is told from Ravan's perspective, and Amish has done such a great job on this book. I mean, I was rather disappointed in Ram and Sita. I mean, not the deities, the books, Ram, Sign of Ikshvaku, and Sita, Warrior of Mithila, but this one, he's done a wonderful job. Amish has a knack to take Indian epics and turn them into mythological fiction that are so out of this world, so larger than life, that it sort of makes it believable for a second. And even now, when I read this book, once I've read this book, I feel like he's taken all the qualities of Ravana and he's maintained those qualities, but he's given them a new dimension. And because of how Ravan's character progresses or regresses in this book, it sort of becomes awe-inspiring, which is why I love this book so much. I mean, it's not a whole 5-star read for me because I feel like Ram and Sita, the first 2 books in this series, in the Ramchandra series, sort of have a cloud hovering over this one as well. But then this is a fantastic read for me. I gave Ravan, Enemy of Aryavarta 4.5 out of 5 stars. My third book of September was With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, the audio book, and I read this physical copy in August, and I thought, I need to read the audiobook, I need to listen to the audiobook because the poetics was so great, and I know that Elizabeth Acevedo is an amazing narrator. So I read it and I was not disappointed, and I'm like, my love for Elizabeth Acevedo continues. This is about a teenage mom who's not technically struggling, but she has come to terms with her situation and she's making the most of it, the best of it, and that is so amazing to read. I don't have anything else to add to this because I've already gushed so much about it in my August wrap-up. So I'll just say that this is an amazing read. If you're listening to the audiobook or if you're reading the physical copy, this is completely worth it. I gave With the Fire on High a full 5 out of 5 stars. My fourth read of September was The Awakening by Kate Chopin. I think I did The Awakening for the Reading Women Challenge where I was supposed to read a novella, so I picked this one. And this book was when I realized that reading as well as listening to the audiobook in parallel is an amazing experience, and which was why I got through this book completely in the first place, and I quite enjoyed it. though I wouldn't say I loved it or something. I'm not a big fan of it. The Awakening is a story set in the late 19th century, at the end of the 19th century, and it talks about Edna Pontellier and how her views of femininity and womanhood, and her increasing views on how women and men should be equal, and her views that she should be able to do what she wants, sort of makes people look at her weirdly, because in those times women were not supposed to do this, they were not supposed to do that, they were not supposed to do that. There are a lot of things that women were not supposed to do, and Edna wants to do exactly those. And how people view her, and how her worldview comes to change, and how she does the things that she does and why she does them, that forms the entire story. And I quite liked it, in the sense that it is refreshing to read a story that is set in those times about a woman who wants to explore herself more, explore her, maybe not exactly sexuality, but the way she perceives the world and the way she perceives her emotions in themselves. The reason why I did like this book was how Edna, puts her priorities first. She begins to change bit by bit, and she puts herself and her happiness first, and that is something I'm always here for. I actually loved the notions of freedom and individuality that this book is trying to bring out, but it just did not stick with me. Like, it did not influence me in the way that I thought it would influence me. It was not sort of an expectation and disappointment sort of thing, but it just did not stick with me. I gave The Awakening 3 out of 5 stars. My fifth read for September was a very popular book, which I did not like at all. This author's writing is just not for me, I felt like, and the book in question is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is set in the dystopian future, and it talks about handmaids who are used, only to birth kids for their commanders. I see it didn't stay with me at all, which is why I'm having trouble remembering it. Every 2 years, a handmaid is assigned to a different household, and they are named after the commander. They have a weird complex ritual in which the handmaid and the commander they are assigned to come together, and obviously the whole goal of it is to impregnate the handmaid. And once their job is done, they are assigned to a different household, because apparently women, at least these handmaids, are made to have children. And this talks from the perspective of Fred. You see the naming convention here of Fred, because he belongs right now to a commander called Fred. I was very annoyed with this whole book because of how it's written. See, the first thing I'll say is that Margaret Atwood's writing is not for me. It does not work for me, because I find it very extremely unnecessarily detailed, and not so much detailed as the fact that she just throws in random facts and details about the world that she's talking about, and then she sort of, it looks like she's expecting the reader to put them together and make coherent sentences, coherent narratives, and a coherent plot. And that is not something I enjoy. I love a good bit of storytelling. I like that someone is telling me that this and this happened. That is what I look for in a book, in a story, and this one was just not for me. Halfway through the book, I was ready to DNF it, but then I kept going at it, and it did become a little better, and I bumped the rating for this one from 2 to 3 stars. And it's just because of that ending that I want to read The Testaments now. My sixth read for September was a book that I picked up completely at random. The book is Songs of a Coward by Perumal Murugan. This is a collection of poetry when the author wrote when he was in exile. Though some of them were really touching, I felt like they were completely a random selection of words that he just wrote down. I felt like there was no point to many of these poems, which is why I didn't enjoy this collection as much as I thought I would, or as much as I hoped I would. Maybe that's my mistake. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. My seventh read of September was The Bookish Life of Nina Hill by Abby Waxman, and I enjoyed listening to this audiobook so much. The narrator did a great job because she had all the nuances, she had all the different accents, the different voices. She was doing a great job of it. This is about Nina Hill, who works in a bookstore, has anxiety if I'm not mistaken, and she is part of a trivia team, and she is an introvert, and she has a cat named Phil. So suddenly out of the blue, she gets news that her father has died, a father that she has never known. And she realizes that she has stepbrothers, stepsisters, nieces, nephews, and great nieces and great nephews, and such a huge family. And now she has to come to terms with this fact. She has to accept these people into her life, which she surprisingly finds not that difficult to. And on one of her trivia nights, she meets Tom. Obviously, she's sort of tongue-tied or something, and things don't go off well in the beginning because of how introverted she is. But Nina has to find a way to bring all of this together without causing chaos, and that forms the entire story. And I loved reading this because first, Nina loves books. Second, Nina is an introvert. And the way she interacts with the people and the way she does things, it felt like I was doing all of them because Nina and I are so similar. And I'm like, yep, that's me. I enjoyed reading it a lot. The romance is so cute, and I love Tom because of how awesome he is, but I love Nina more because of how awesome she is, how much more awesome she is. I enjoyed listening to the audiobook, and I would suggest that you go ahead and listen to the audiobook because it's that much better. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars.